Okay, morning everybody, or evening if you're watching, well, whenever you're watching this, if you're watching it on the video. Let's just start with a simple tap in massage exercise, rubbing your hands together, getting the fingers in the palm of your hand, getting a little bit warmer, and then the pads of your fingers lightly tapping over your face. And then start to work up over your head. I generally use the palms of my hands here, front to back. And then down to one shoulder, probably a little bit stronger on the shoulder, your arm, feel the vibration of the muscles, tap the other side, and then your arm. One or both hands around your back, lightly, just covering as much of your back as you're comfortable with, and then around your hips. Then the outside of your legs, not the inside. Belly, and finally, the upper part of the chest. And then it's always nice and easy as you start up, especially if you're new to this, but whatever your experience, just standing your feet directly below your hips and not too close together. And just begin to turn a little bit in the middle part of your body. We're looking for a posture that allows a freedom of movement. And initially, this is just a case of bringing your attention into your body, observing your posture, maybe just aware of where the barriers are to the movement, but not pushing hard against them. This exercise is a fairly loose exercise in hips and shoulders as much as possible. Has a light quality to it. I like the image that is sometimes used of a weather vane gently blowing in a light breeze. You may find that your body just settles into a nice steady rhythm. And the weight of your arms hanging from your shoulders, so that they just swing round and they'll tend to fall. Right hand will tend to fall over the hip, this area. The rear hand will just strike right back here where the spine meets your pelvis. Trying to gently reduce the amount of resistance to the movement in your body. It's always though recognizing that subtle though they are, the changes in posture in Tai Chi are quite strong. And it always takes a little while for your body to condition to that. So again, particularly new people, bear that in mind, that as you start to make the changes that we go through, you will feel a response in your body. Just be prepared to rest as and when you need to. So your breathing come nice and easy. And as you stand here, just take a moment to reflect on how you're being supported, starting with your legs and your feet, of course, ground beneath your feet. Your upper body sitting on your hips. Feeling that your back supports the front of your upper body. So try not to pull your belly in, tighten your chest. Just recognize that these can be very deeply embedded habits. So Be patient with yourself. Maybe as you lose some of the tightness and stiffness in your body, just becoming aware that there is this deeper sense of support and strength. Maybe starting with just an awareness of how the skeleton, the bones of your legs, your pelvis, your spine, ribs continue to support without the need for stiffening, without the need for tightening. And we tend to get little glimpses of that. Hopefully, an increasing sense of confidence in that inner strength. Turn your hands palm out, just raise them up a little, no higher than your shoulders, more open across your chest and upper back. Remember when we were doing the tapping, you may have felt a little bit of sort of vibration in the muscles of your arms and hands. And just see if you can get a sense of that again as you hold your arms in this particular shape. Your hands drop down. 1 foot forwards, keeping the width of your step. You notice you can still see the background between my legs. Pushing yourself forwards and backwards, feeling your body turn in response, moving from the ground. And just go nice and easy as you feel the weight change. Recognize that as well as the physical warm-up element of what we're doing at the moment, this is also a chance, particularly for those of you with more experience, to review aspects of posture. And if you have a sense of how it can feel, how it has felt in the past, that becomes a sort of guide and intention. It can lead us into these postures and movements. And at the same time, just using that attentiveness to help your thoughts to gather and to quieten. Change over. Again, and chin. We use a variety of models in Tai Chi to help us to relate to our posture, help us to relate to the way gravity works through our body, and how we can begin to cultivate the useful aspects of that. Each model has its own virtues, and at different times you may find that one way of looking at things is the most useful. One aspect I find quite interesting is to think of a series of levels or platforms through the body. The first platform is the floor and your feet, and chances are the floor is level, and so your feet will be level. Next, we could imagine a platform. Imagine building up a set of shelves or stacking up a series of boxes or books or something like that. If the base is level, then the next level up, your knees also stand a better chance of being level. Next level will be hips and pelvis, and that works both horizontally, front, left to right, but also front to back. Try not to let your pelvis tilt around too much. That rests on the platform of the knees. We can imagine a platform here at the base of the ribs, resting on the hips. Next, we'll cover the shoulders. This is in a way the top platform, the top level, and if the levels below are level and even, then chances are the shoulders have a much better chance of being so. And that means that your head can just rest on your shoulders. We don't need to hold our head up. So if that's a useful image for you, try and just maintain it in the back of your mind as we go through the different movements. Ideally, have your weight a little bit forwards, just really releasing tightness around the center of the body, so your hips drop back. This will bring your knees to a point where they're more or less above the balls of your feet. And as you drop back, your ankles will be more above your hips. So there's a slight curve in your knees, those little balls tucked in behind your knees. But then just allowing your hips to drop back a little bit more. Letting your pelvis tuck under as you do to maintain this level quality. And then you reach a point where you get pushed up to the top point again and then sinking down. So the movement works through these different levels, these different platforms. Gravity draws you down in more towards the ground, and then you feel your legs starting to push you up. Your body contracting downwards and then expanding up. Just trying to feel that movement from your feet to your hips. Letting your center of gravity drop, rooting down. So when we begin to align our body with the pull of gravity, we get more stable because our center of gravity drops. This is important. And with the alignment of the body, a freer flow of movement. So sinking down, the rooting down also produces that sense of movement upwards, like bouncing the ball. Bringing your hands around as though you're cradling the ball, and then as you push up, letting the expansion push your elbows out, that will draw your hands up. From here, so the ball's underneath your arms. And don't hurry this. When you get to the top position, in the first instance, just feel your hips dropping down. There'll be a slight lengthening through, particularly the lower part of your back. Then your shoulders drop down, and that draws your hands down. And then from the bottom, you push up and you feel the push going into your hips and up through your back to your shoulders, finally your arms. So we begin to recognize a sort of chain of movement. With an emphasis on what's happening in feet, legs, and hips. Not to the exclusion of the arms, but just recognize that you'll almost certainly gravitate towards putting more effort into your arms than you really need to. So we're always returning our attention to our feet and our roots. Just having that sense of a regular opportunity to ground, to settle your thoughts. Three aspects of movement: body, mechanics of the movement, and physical posture, awareness and intentionality, mind, and the movement itself, flow, the energy, the momentum, all beginning to interact with each other until eventually the aim would be not to be thinking of those things as separate, but to experience what happens when they truly come together as one unit. And this sense of gathering, I feel, is one of the very important outcomes that we get from this, a gathering of both mind and body. And with that, a sense of calmness, sense of stillness, despite the fact that this is very much a dynamic art. Easy and gently. Sometimes we may use the image of moving through water. This sort of soft resistance to the movement, encouraging an appropriate sort of response where the movement is quite strong, but not hard and not tight. This too becomes a factor that leads into the flow of the movement. So this is the exercise rooting down, but now just changing, turning your hands, fingers out and pushing up, feeling that gentle expansion, rising up a little bit further in towards your solar plexus and your chest. This is the wild goose. If the image of the bird in flight conveys an appropriate quality, maybe of smoothness and grace, and also of strength, if you think about a feather, feathers very light, very supple objects, also very strong. These are all appropriate qualities for the practice of Tai Chi. If the image doesn't work for you, that doesn't mean a big failure on your part. And then change into parting the clouds. You let your hands cross in front of your belly. See how the elbows go out, drawing your fingers around in a nice smooth circle. And then think of the sun coming out from behind the clouds. Expansion, moving up a little bit higher in your body. And do one more of these. And then at the end of it, we're going to go back to the first one, rooting down, and build this into a little three-part sequence. So first of all, cradling the ball. At the bottom of the movement here, just rotate your arms so your fingers push out, and then the wild goose. And as your hands come to a point more or less level with your hips, let them drop down and go into parting. Feeling the expansion in your body, mostly in your belly and your lower back here. And then as you go into the wild goose, the same thing, but it rises up. Solar plexus, the lower part of the chest and ribs. And then the part in the clouds, belly, solar plexus, and to the upper part of the chest. Breathing is just as it comes, nothing is forced in the breathing, especially not to begin with. Everybody does know how to breathe. And if it interests you to work with your breath and if it's comfortable for you, then as you reach this stage of the movement, just see how it feels to take a gentle breath in. Breathing out whenever it's appropriate, don't hold your breath. So as well as this progression of the movement and the expansion from the ground up into belly, and then solar plexus, and then into the chest, being the way that the movement should always build in Tai Chi. It's always how the energy should build. This is also the same procedure for our breathing, and we want to just gently encourage that, not to force it. Nothing should be forced in Tai Chi. You find that your body's breathing slightly differently, then don't think that this is a failure. But if it's comfortable for you with that in-breath as your body expands upwards, And be just reminding yourself of that a few times as we go through the rest of the exercises. One more round of this. And then changing, this time focusing on one side of your body for the expansion. Push your arm up, wind around as though you're plucking something off a tree, or down. Slowly switch your attention to the opposite side. This is dragon plucks the stars from the sky. Once again, the movement, the energy building from the ground upwards. This is by no means the only dynamic in Tai Chi, but it is one of the principal ones. And it helps us to remember the significance of the root, the connection to the ground, which is very easily lost with attention to the arms. Each time you settle down, each time your arm drops, once again, that feeling of just settling and grounding in your attention. One of the things that we begin to cultivate is this sense of calmness, stillness that rests within the movement itself. Dragon plucks the stars. And then just let your arms hang down. In this, what I think of as the top position, which is, if I come a bit closer here, you can see my hips just dropping back, a slight curve in the knees. This will be strong in the legs, of course. So if you find that your legs are sort of stiffening up, give them a little shake, maybe rest for a while if you need to. But this is the posture that really allows the center of gravity to drop, allows for that freedom of movement downwards and upwards through the body. Sometimes we may go deeper, but for these next couple of exercises, just staying in this position, bringing the hands to the center of the body. So hands rest beside your hips, palm up, and then coming around slightly in front, pressing up just a little above your head, palms facing upwards, and coming down, returning to the center. Resting by your hips. Coming up again, pushing out to the sides. And this time, turn just a little bit in your hips, in your waist, changing the direction of movement with your arms as that happens. Back. Turn the other way. And back. And then facing forwards and push out. Just pushing in full direction. Letting the hands draw your attention now to that center part of your body. It's that central part of your body, hips and pelvis, that we want to drop towards the ground, to root down. That center part of the body can be seen as the center of the expansion, like a balloon or a ball, expanding, pushing in all directions as it expands out, as it gets inflated. Increasingly, center part of the body where our thoughts return to. So, as well as the idea of our thoughts grounding, we can also think in terms of centering, if that's a useful phrase. So we begin to identify physical areas in the body, really from this area of the hips down into the ground. We can return our attention to just touch that quality of stillness, spaciousness. Very valuable exercise to be able to bring your attention into your body in this way, just for that little break in the stream of the thoughts. In this particular exercise, we really emphasize that. Center of the body is said to be like the hub of a wheel. The hub of the wheel on a bicycle or a car remains still, the wheel moves around it. And this combination of stillness and movement working together. Increasingly, the center of the body becomes the lens, if you like to think like that, through which we're able to observe, and through which we're able to sort of focus our attention and our intentions. One traditional image used for that central part of the body is it's like the banner of an army, leading the army to where it needs to go. Mind is like the commander of the armies, standing on the hill, observing, giving out directions and orders, receiving back information. Another more modern image might be something like a telephone exchange or a place where messages from the internet gather and move out from, and a central exchange. Now letting your hands drop down, and against focusing on the expanding movement of one side of your body, letting it push your hand out so that it swings up a little bit and then goes straight down the center. The expansion is similar in a way to the earlier exercise of dragon plucks the stars from the sky. But the intention here is for your arm and your hand to be pushed outwards rather than upwards. So we get this curving movement. This is called circling palms for obvious reasons. Again, turning your attention to the center in the ground. This time, if it's comfortable, we have to turn in. Let's go very gently. You might find that pulls a bit on your hip or your back. If it's not comfortable with this or any of the movements, just make it a smaller movement, or you leave bits of the movement out, maybe leave the turn out. And then change the sides. Maybe just recalling that image of the platforms and the movement upwards from the ground through all of the platforms. Legs, belly, chest, and then back down. And then add in the turn. One more time. Just letting your arms rest by your sides and going back to this movement we did earlier, just allowing your hips to sink back more, The lower we go down, up to a certain point, the more likely we are to feel a stronger push up. So that there is a value to go into the deeper postures, but not at the expense of your knees. Don't force this movement. If it's easier for you to focus on this idea of talk about a balloon in the middle of your body, that gets compressed at this point. When it expands, it will expand downwards. So there's still that connection to the ground. Again, we can use different images, different ideas. No one image, no one idea is ever going to be complete. So take from them what is appropriate. And in the end, we're looking for an awareness that is beyond those images. The images should point us at what we might think of as a more intuitive quality, intuitive awareness of posture and connection, which also becomes a very strong sense of intention. Next time, very carefully, as you sink down, push your hips back so the center of your body tilts, rotates vertically this time, and that will bring your head, shoulders forwards, and then letting your hips drop back and noticing how that brings your head up, and then push up. But try not to strain in your back, your neck, or your shoulders coming up. It's almost like you're just sitting back in your favorite armchair, except you're sitting into the legs. Quite so relaxing for the legs, perhaps. Very carefully, don't overdo this. Be careful of your knees and the back, but now let your hands come up. And as you sink down and your hips drop back, and a gentle lengthening through your back and spine, extending into your arms and your fingers, and then dropping down. This helps us to understand how we can maintain that upright stance without straining. It's allowing the pull of gravity to work on our hips, bring them back and down without us having to strain. So again, recognizing significance of that central part of our life. It's time your hands to rest in front of your belly. Turn horizontally and then push your hips back. So your hands are pushed forwards, swinging around, your hips drop down and back to the front. This is polishing the tendon. Turn the other direction, push your hips back, swing your hips around, drop. Back so you can see what my hips are doing. I'm exaggerating a little bit here. Down, and the hips come across, and then up and back to the center. Again, in the direction. Nice and gently. So when we come up, we bring ourselves back into line. Maybe just take a moment to remember that image of the platforms, if that's useful to you, or you've heard me, it's a different image at times. Whatever image is useful, just to let you settle into the center here before you move out again. One more in each direction. And then you have. So we cultivate an environment within the body that creates space for movement, for the flow, for the energy to move. We also cultivate a focus of attention and a focus of intentionality, which can help to shape that 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 movement. And that intentionality again is focused through the center of the body. And this is an ongoing process in Tai Chi. Again, bringing together mind, body, and energy. And we learn to do that through the repetition of familiar movements. Okay, so let's take a slightly wider stance. Don't overdo this, but turn your toes out, then push your heels out. Turn your toes out again. Letting your weight drop down and beginning to move your weight from one foot to another. Toes are turned out a little bit in this stance. It's called horse riding stance. And you want to move across so that about 60% of your weight is in each leg. And initially, you can think of this as a gentle push through each foot. So you get a strong sense of moving from the ground. Rather than leaning over, trying to let your shoulders lean. When you go into your right foot, so mirroring my movement, just turn a little bit to the right. So you're now facing the direction of that right foot. Move into the left foot. So. Again, remember that feeling of spaciousness within the body. One of the things that we often find, I think, as we become more experienced in these arts, is that sometimes all it takes is just to remind ourselves that, oh, we should be moving down, turning from the center, not straining in the shoulders. So we have that sense of a very free movement. Remember that very first exercise we did where we were swinging our arms around, that sense of a looseness within the body. That's tempered by this image of moving through water. So it becomes not just loose, a little bit more substantial than that, but without tightening up, without stiffening up. Developing, cultivating this internal strength that we first noted when we began to lose some of the tightness in our body. It's just deep in the body, but we want to feel as though it's spreading out through the body gradually. Sense of internal strength, internal resilience. Now come into your right foot, bring your right hand to your shoulder, left hand underneath. So it's as though you're holding the ball. Going into your left foot, turning, and letting the turn just swing the left arm up. Right hand presses down until it's resting in front of your hip. You come back, drawing your hand across the shoulder, turn your hands palm in, push over into the left foot, turn. So it's parting the wild horse's neck. Now into the right. It's almost like you're stretching out the elastic band between your hands and then letting it contract slowly. And take your time. Doing that opening in the chest as you do this, but not losing the sense of what's happening in your feet and your legs and your hips. And in particular, with a slightly more complex movement like this, you just have a chance to rest each time your weight lands in one leg. Don't rush into the next movement. Settle in to the right foot. Feel yourself being pushed across. Settle into the left foot. Feel yourself being pushed across. Settle into the right. Your body turning gently, and then start the whole process again. So we can use that moment when our weight lands in a leg, foot, to just remind ourselves of that quality of stillness. Maybe in that moment at the same time, it's more aware of our posture. We may have lost some of the alignment of the posture in the transition from one foot to another. You can begin to just get that back. It only takes a split second. You can sometimes go, we don't have time for that, but it really takes almost no time at all. It's an intentional quality. It has a physical response, but with practice, you'll find that your body will respond very quickly to that intention. Part in the wild horse of the leg. One more on each side. Good. Now, let's go back to stance that we went into very briefly earlier. Turn one foot out, step straight forward with the toes pointing forward with the other foot, roughly square. So keeping the width of the step about the same in length. And once again, begin to very gently push yourself forward and backwards. See if you can maintain that alignment with the back forwards. But if not, if you lose that, which is quite possible, we all do, you'd have this moment in time just to settle and to get that back. Bringing your attention into that contact with the ground, with the sole of your foot. So that awareness of the root, that awareness of our posture also helps to cultivate this momentary stillness. And again, like everything else, it will get lost. But one of the great things that I feel Tai Chi has offered me is this opportunity to return to that on a regular basis, locating the still point in the center of your body and from there down in to the ground. Is I think one of the great takeaways from this stuff. You go into your back foot and then gently raise your toes, you settle down more into that back foot. You go forwards, push your back knee forwards where your heel comes up. So gradually more of your weight flowing down through one leg. I like to have my front foot turned out a little bit here just to open up my hip a little bit more. Aligning yourself over the leg. The combination of aligning yourself and dropping your center of gravity means that we gradually become more stable on one leg, and then bring your foot in, contracting the leg, push out, put the heel down, lower the toes, gently push the foot into the floor, and let your weight follow that movement across. And the back foot in when you step back, it's the ball of the foot that goes down first. You may well feel a little bit of wobbling. If that's a problem point, maybe do this. You know, here I've got my hand on the wall here. Remember that the remedy for that is not to stiffen up, but to just try and allow the hips to drop back a little bit more, to allow that sense of gravity downwards through. This is a very different response to our habitual one. So it takes time to develop the confidence in that. Try the same thing with your other foot forwards. Knees in forwards and backs, being careful not to overextend your knees. We call this process, this movement of the weight, filling and emptying. And I mentioned earlier this driving movement, the yielding to the pull of gravity, producing the upward movement like a ball bouncing. And what's happening now is rather than bouncing up and down, the ball is bouncing forwards and backwards. So the transfer of the weight again is a major quality here. We're told traditionally that the movement is rooted in the feet with this alignment and the dropping of our center of gravity. Transmitted through the legs with that expansion, contraction in the legs. Guided, directed, focused through the center part of our body. We've already seen how that can work. And then expressed through upper body and arms. Not that the upper body and arms are unimportant, but they express what's going on in the rest of the body. Again, that encourages a sense of being centered in the ground. Beginning to raise your heel, toes. Again, you can imagine moving through water. That's a good image for you. Stepping in. And then just taking a few steps, either forwards or backwards, depending on where you have the space. You plant the foot, placing the foot on the ground and pressing in gently. Change direction. Now, have your right foot forward. So mirror my movements. Start with your weight in your back foot. Push forwards. This time, just leaving your hands behind for a moment and then letting them come through, following the movement. Same idea, going back. It's going to feel like a wave moving through your body, moving your arms for you. It's called fisherman castanet. It's letting your arms swing from your shoulders. Try not to stiffen up in your arms or your fingers. Maybe use that image of moving through the water. People more familiar with this, really, without losing the attention to the ground. Notice what's happening in your upper body where you feel those patterns, expansion and contraction. You might want to bring your attention to. This time, bringing your hands back, more in front of your hips, let your wrist drop, push forwards, and just letting your arms swing up. This is called pushing waves. So that wave-like movement through your body. Now, pushing on your elbows to push away, and your arms will naturally swing up. More focused movement, though you're pushing against something. And again, this begins to give us a sense of that stronger quality that comes from that more resilient quality. But this is a soft strength, this is the strength of water, not of land. Pushing away. This time, when you arrive at the front foot, turn a little bit to your left, let that separate your hands. They flatten out a little bit like the wild goose a little bit. Coming back, let your hands drop down, settle into the back foot, turning in the direction of the front foot. And this is a movement called wind blows the willows. And again, as you settle, your body expanding and then contracting. So again, it's that feeling of settling into the ground, produces the rising energy. The arms being pushed away from the body. So again, swing it up very smoothly. And the rhythm of the movement, the yang, the extension, the in, the contraction, bringing our awareness to the ground, followed once again by the expansion. It's too that rhythm feeds into our intentions. The mind and intention are very important here. We stay alert, we have these conscious intentions to move, guided by various factors, imagery, memory, ideas, all contribute to our intention. So, have your left foot forwards now, and beginning with pushing on cast and neck. You can have the intention to maintain those platforms. Have the intention to continually feel the pull of gravity on our hips. Have the intention to settle, to release as our weight lands in each foot. And have the memory of how these movements can feel. Perhaps an intention just to sit back a little bit from all of that and to observe how the movement works within your body. It's time changing to push away. And then turning into wind blows. Don't struggle to lift your arms. Sinking down in the expansion. Hands should go no higher than your shoulders, but maybe not that high. Then, again, either forwards or backwards. I'm going to go forward, so I go into my front foot, push my back knee in, raise the heel, bring the foot in. Just a moment here to check, have I disrupted that alignment within my body? Then stepping through, planting the foot, doing the same thing again. Maybe if you're comfortable with this at this stage, it's just draw your foot up. Again, don't let that tilt the body. It may just be more appropriate just to bring the foot in and just keep it down, but to rotate a little bit. This is called dragonfly skims the water. I'm going to change direction. You can go in any direction, forwards or backwards, or you can turn and move diagonally. Once again, change direction. Again. So whether we're thinking of the physical root and alignment for our stability, or thinking in terms of that quality of stillness, particularly in mind, a sense of settling in mind and body, whether we're thinking of the overall sense of the flow of the movement, all of these things, I've used the word cultivation, and it's important to remember, if you're a gardener, you'll know this, that you don't just water the plants once, you don't just weed once. Cultivation is an ongoing thing. And I mentioned several times, we'd lose these things very, very easily. But Tai Chi teaches us how to come back to them, teaches us how to keep weeding, shall we say. So final exercise, it's called Embrace Tiger, Return to the Mountain. The mountain will be an image of many of these qualities. The term I like to use is central equilibrium. Zhongding is the Chinese term. It encapsulates much of what we cultivate in Tai Chi. The stillness, the spaciousness, but also a very dynamic element, the strength of the mountain, the root of the mountain. These are all aspects of central equilibrium. And they're all things that are easily forgotten, that are easily lost in our daily lives. Things that we can also come back to. So letting your hips sink, and then this time you push up, aware of the pull of gravity on your hips, your arms, and just yield into that. Gravity, how can you bring yourself back in, draw your hands in, imagine the ball underneath and let the hips drop. Just let your hands into your sides again, and then pushing up. And bringing your hands around, drawing in and back. And just take a moment to just consider what it is that draws you back. Is it an image of some kind, a memory? Is it the feel of gravity working through your body in a particular way? A combination of those. It's a very personal thing, and whatever it is, this is something again that you can take away with you, and perhaps come back to at moments during the day, just for that sense of being settled, centered, rooting in the mind, the body, and the energy. Embrace Tiger, return to the mountain. One more time. And stay. Thank you very much, everybody, for watching and joining in. As always, if you do have any questions at any point, please feel free to get in touch with me. But bye for now. Enjoy the rest of your day.